This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good evening, everybody, and welcome to a special Thursday night edition of Beach Talk Radio. We've got a really special lineup of guests tonight. We're going to be talking about condo associations on Fort Myers Beach. Already have a big audience. There are 162 condo buildings on Fort Myers Beach, according to the interim fire chief, Scott Worth, who just told me that today. That's a lot of people that are not on the beach yet because they're in different phases of the rebuild. And we're going to talk to 5 of them tonight. It's impossible to get everybody on there. So I know that some of the folks out there are hoping that they could hear about their condo building. So we'll do the best we can tonight and continue to do a show like this with as many condos as we can. So let's introduce our guests. From Mariners Boathouse is Dave Wallace. Thanks for coming on, Dave. Bob Galvanoni is from Carlos Point Beach Club. Mike Law joins us from the West. Dave Nussbaum is from Island Winds. And Jim Singer is with us from Leonardo Arms. So, Dave, I introduced you first. So why don't you tell us what the storm did to the buildings that you represent?
Well, we're a timeshare condo, and we're only a 3-story building, 22 units, towards the south end of the beach. We are waterfront. We're in the high risk area, obviously. Ian, pretty much like everyone along the beach, decimated our ground level, and the surge came up high enough that it infiltrated the 6 units on our first floor, our game room, and our main office, and that. So we lost a lot of equipment at the ground level, our laundry room, our maintenance room, washrooms, our pool equipment room, and so on and so forth. The surge literally lifted up the asphalt under the building, where we have about 8 parking spaces, and I think deposited it across the road in the big pond at the old Bay Beach Golf Club. And I think most of our laundry machines are over there too in the pond. So, and then our second and third floors pretty much just took wind-driven rain damage right through the sliders and the windows. So they're not the worst. Like the first floor and the ground floor and our pool area were a disaster, but second and third floors weren't nearly as bad.
Gotcha. So, Bob, how did Carlos Point Beach Club do in the storm? Bob, can you hear us? I think, Bob, we lost sound, even though we tested it. Let's go to Mike. Mike, if you can hear us, tell us how Batiki West did.
Oh, ours pretty much did what happened at Dave's. Our bottom floor, our ground floor, obviously the surge damaged quite a bit. Took our laundry room, our rec room, things like that out, even in our elevator area. What happened at Batiki is it peeled the roof back at 2 ends a bit, and then the rain event came in, and we weren't able to get access right away to try to prevent or mitigate that rain and all that water, and we ended up having quite a bit of water damage to our drywall, things of that kind of stuff. So, we got quite a bit of damage. We're working through it, and we had people on site. Matter of fact, our vice president came down fairly quick and started working with a company to start mitigating and moving forward.
Bob, I don't know if you can hear us now in square number 3, but we'll keep trying to get you on. Let's go to Dave Nussbaum. Dave, how did Island Winds do?
Well, basically, we are in the same shape as everyone else. We suffered extensive damage on the first floor. Everything was gutted down to the cinder blocks. We lost all the equipment, all of the drywall. Everything got flushed out onto the street. All of the doors and windows were blown out. On floors 2 through 13, we had extensive drywall damage in almost every unit. We are 2 13-story high-rise buildings with 4 units on each floor, and I would say 85% of the units took damage on floors 2 through 13. The wind was in excess of 150 miles an hour, and it ripped the tops off of both elevator houses on the top of the building. So both elevators servicing the buildings were completely trashed. We just recently submitted our proof of loss to our wind carrier, and the total damage was somewhere around $11 million by the time it's all said and done. Ground floor were totally trashed. The only bright spot was we had 3 carports in the parking lot that remained standing, did suffer some damage, but were there after the flood.
All right, gotcha. Jim, let's see how Leonardo Arms did. Well, I think it was interesting for Leonardo Arms in that they had been saying over and over and over for the longest time that it was one storm away from being a catastrophe, and boy, sure did get the storm that made that all come true.
We certainly got the storm. Yeah, we have 3 separate buildings and 3 separate boards at Leonardo Arms. Leonardo Arms 2 is the one that's most directly on the beach. That's the one that you saw a lot on the news over the last year. And fortunately, there has been progress on the seawall. The seawall is pretty much finished now.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it wasn't in place before. Like the others, we suffered extensive damage. All the first floor units suffered extensive damage. We were down to the cinder block. All the drywall was gone. Like other buildings, I assume our electrical components were all on the first floor. They were housed there. So that's a huge issue with us. There was some roof damage. Beyond the first floor, it was spotty. There were some areas where there was some damage to units on other floors, and that varied somewhat building to building in our complex. But we've been on site. Most of the board members were there at some point during the course of the winter. My wife and I actually rode out the hurricane in our unit. And so we, good or not, we were there and able to report out to various owners and to our manager and others the status the day after the hurricane.
Now, Jim, wait, before I let you go, you are basically the closest building, Leonardo Arms is the closest building to basically being in the Gulf, and you rode that storm out. What was that like? What did you see? How high up were you?
Well, we were in building 3 and we were on the 6th floor. So our building of the Leonardo Arms complex, ours is the one that is less directly on the beach. And being on the 6th floor, we heard a lot of wind noise. But after the hurricane was over, we had a little bit of water on our lanai to dry up. And other than that, we were fine. Of course, walked down dark stairwells filled with clutter and debris, and the parking lot was the same. Then when we got outside, we could look back and see all the devastation on the first floors of all 3 buildings.
Gotcha. So I don't know, Bob, can you hear us yet, Bob? I think if anybody knows Bob or is helping Bob out or is watching or can text Bob to ask him to reboot his computer and sign back into the link. We can't hear you. That's the problem. We can't hear you. So I don't know what happened since before we tested it, but maybe just reboot it and sign back in, and we'll see if we can get you in that way, because we really want to hear how things are going at Carlos Point. And it looks like Dave dropped out, so we'll go to Dave Nussbaum. Dave, what's it like to try and get a big building with so many so many moving parts and owners working together to get the place back open?
Well, fortunately, we've been in constant contact with the owners almost the day after the storm. Our vice president is down there. He has been down there every day since the storm. He actually took a kayak to the beach and walked the property and took pictures. So we've been trying to give it initially weekly updates. Now we're going to basically monthly board meetings. We're taking videos down. Our vice president just did a video walkthrough prior to the meeting so that everyone could see the glacial progress that we're making on the building, fighting money and contractors and everything else.
Got it. Dave Wallace, same question. What's it like to try and rally everybody together to try and get a big building open?
Well, I don't think we've got the same issues that Island Winds has, because, as I said, we're just a 22-unit, 3-story building. We've had great success with a couple of, an engineering firm down in out of Fort Myers, and a contractor, our general contractor out of there, and our mitigator, who's off site now. But we've just kind of, between board meetings and our management company, we've been able to keep everything on track. And I think we've certainly been fortunate that we've got the right people, the right professionals engaged with us to keep things moving along. So, but as Dave said, we've tried to keep our owners informed as best we can with monthly updates. We post a monthly update on we could have done it weekly, but just not, during mitigation, nothing was going on. So it's kind of gone to a month our general manager posts something on our Facebook page, and we have something on our official website also. So, and then just written reports every so often, like our quarterly newsletters and that. So, we're getting good support out of ownership too. They're patient. They understand what's going on, and we're just kind of working our way step by step.
Bob, can you hear us now?
Yes,
all right, here we go. It was worth the wait, brother. It was worth the wait. So let's back up to that first question for you. What was the damage like at Carlos Point?
Extensive. We had a approximately 15-foot surge that wiped out everything on the ground floor, and that means it ripped out the electrical connectivity, water, sewer, fire safety, and all the people on the first floor their condos were breached, and they all had water in them. And there was 18 condos, and there were also condos on the second floor that were splashed, and they had water in some of those condos as well, at least on the lanais, and some got breached as well. We lost the lobby, the rec room, the storage areas, garages, laundry room, office, meeting rooms, and only the vertical piers holding up the building were left standing. Bad damage.
Yeah. So, I mean, what was the first thing you thought when you returned to that building and saw what you saw?
Well, my wife and I went down there about 2 or 3 weeks after the storm, and we were shocked. I mean, we were shocked not only by the way the building looked, because all you saw was the vertical piers and some dangling wires and
things like pipes and that dangling from underneath the first floor. There was debris everywhere. The neighborhood was a mess. It was lucky you could just drive down the road, and I have to give the cleanup people a lot of credit just to get it that clean to the point where you could drive down the road. But I'll tell you my reaction then, as it is now, maybe I'm crazy, but I was confident that Carlos Point and the Fort Myers Beach town would be rebuilt. And it's happening. I think somebody referred to it as glacial speed. Nothing's going fast enough, of course, for us or anybody else. Of course, we have a lot of renting owners down there who rent, and they're sucking up all the rents that they're not getting, and they're paying all their fees and their property insurance and all that sort of thing. So it's tough.
Now, thanks. Go ahead, Bob. Did you want to add something?
I was going to go to that next question where you talked about what does it take to pull
Okay,
everybody.
yeah. That'll get us all caught up.
Yeah, there we are. Our board is multi-talented, and they pull together. I'm so blessed to have a board that really rose together on this. We have a lot of communication, and that's what's holding everything together. Our treasurer and chief communicator is Irma Cherkos, and she's tireless. She goes at it all the time. We chose excellent public adjuster, Altieri, out of Tampa. We have a great general contractor, C Sharp from Orange Beach, Alabama. There are people on the scene, Kevin Kimball, Ryan Little, and John Rossman are helping us tremendously. We are constantly communicating with Zoom calls and newsletters. And I think what's happened over the last 3 or 4 months, people really have sort of caught up to realities. We all wanted everything to happen overnight. We all wanted it to cost nothing, but that ain't the case. And the people are being patient, working with us, and we're working through it.
Gotcha. So, Jim, I don't think I don't think I got this question to you, or if I did, just tell me how's it like? I know I got to get Mike on this one, but how's it like getting everybody together? You guys have 3 buildings over there, right?
We do. We have three buildings, 3 separate boards. We have outstanding boards in each of our buildings. We've done a great job, I think, of communicating with owners from the very beginning. Again, I was on site and was able to communicate with people, and that really just continued from that day on. So owners have felt comfortable contacting us. We've reached out to them. We've kept them updated on at least a weekly basis with, again, a willingness to answer questions at any time. We send out at least a weekly update, continue to do that. Our board meets with our manager and the company that's doing our recovery work at least on every other week basis. At this point, we were doing at least once a week prior to the last month or so. So I can't say enough for all of those people. And like I think everyone else, while all of us would like to be back in our homes 6 months ago, I'm very happy that our owners are patient. They all want to be back, but they realize it's a long, slow process, and we're all just living to bear with that.
Jim, one of the things that I think it was Jane Plummer said, she was talking to somebody on the LPA was talking to the mail carrier in their neighborhood, and they were trying to estimate how many people actually were living on the island right now. And the mail carrier thought it was about 500. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the condo owners not being in their buildings. When Leonardo Arms is full, how many people are in those buildings?
Well, there are 180 units, and this isn't the busiest time of year for them to be occupied, but they're certainly all occupied during peak times, and we have we have a handful of people that live there year round.
Okay, gotcha. But otherwise, I mean, 180 units, it's pretty much full with different people throughout the year. Okay, gotcha. So Mike, let's go over to you and you tell us first, how many units does Batiki West have? And
we're a 7-story mid-rise building with 60 units. So when we are full during season, we probably have close to 120 plus at Batiki West. I can say that initially when the storm happened. We had a few owners that wrote it out. We were getting video when they could send it to us, and had somewhat of an idea what was going on. Our vice president came down fairly shortly when we were allowed to come on the island and begin the initial assessment of damage, and which he has been great. We named him our site manager. He has a lot of experience in building and construction. So he was able to start right away of contacting the people we need to get there to mitigate the damage. As far as our owners go, our owners have been really super impatient with us. We started out as soon as we got information of sending them what we could with pictures and videos. And I was doing bi-weekly reports until we got to the point where it really was becoming redundant until the mitigation was going on. And then we went to monthly. We've had a few Zoom meetings, and of course worked with our association manager to do that legally. But luckily the governor, DeSantis, had an emergency thing that allowed us some freedom running meetings that we didn't have prior. So that all helps. Again, our board has been great. I came on as president October 1st. So it was just a few days after the storm. I flew down. I was probably the second one there and met my vice president. So that's when I got on the beach shortly after they started allowing people on.
Yeah. So, Mike, you and I spoke on the phone today about a specific situation that you're dealing with, and I called the mayor, and we were shooting back and forth some things about some of the challenges that all these buildings are going to have to face now. There are state inspectors on the island, there are town inspectors on the island. They have to inspect all these things, and now some things that you didn't have to worry about before the storm are not grandfathered in. You got to still, come up to standards of the Florida Building Code, and it's not as easy as just slapping the drywall on, right?
No, it's not. Actually, we thought we were moving along pretty well until just recently, and we actually had the drywall delivered, ready to go up. In some cases, it was going up in the hallway, and then we came into a problem in which our building was built in 1973. Actually, it's 50 years old. And then we are being required to have venting in our bathrooms, and which this building's never had venting in the bathrooms. So that has put us kind of to a screeching halt, and we got our drywallers on site and everything to move forward. Until we can figure that out. Like most organizations or condo organizations, we can't vent to the side of the building, so that becomes a problem.
So you got to go through the ceiling, and you just got a new roof, so you have to figure out how to get through the new roof, and how long. I mean, if you have to do all that, and if it's Florida Building Code, whatever code it is, I guess you have to do it. How much longer does that delay on top of the delay, not the delay, but the repairs that you're going through now?
Well, we don't know. We'll have to get an engineer in there first of all and see if how it can be done, if it can be done. We're trying to work with the inspectors of alternatives and things, but we haven't had a whole lot of success at this point. If we had to do something like that, my best guess would be it would delay us 3 to 4 months.
And on top of that, the additional costs that will probably
I have no idea what the additional cost would be at that point. It's something we surely didn't expect. That's for sure.
Dave Nussbaum down at Island Winds, what are some of the challenges that you're running into that you can share?
Well, I think the biggest problem we've had is trying to get the contractors on site and moving. We spent several months where we had a lot of commitments from people, but they either didn't have the manpower or they didn't have the supplies. We put an order in for our electric switchgear in December, and it's not going to be in for 2 or 3 months. All of the switch gears on the first floor had to be replaced. The elevators, as I mentioned earlier, our install date for the first building is in August, and it's a 9-week install time period. So it's supply chain, getting the materials. The contractors we talk to say we could go a lot faster. We can't get people to work.
Wow.
It's just as I used the term kind of tongue in cheek earlier, glacial speed. We would all, I think everybody here in the entire island would love to be able to go faster if we could, but I think the resources are the limiting factor. That and battling the insurance company for extra funds.
Dave, when your condo association is full, when your condo buildings are full, how many units are there? How many people?
We have 100 units. Our property manager utilizes 1 unit. So we have 99 units, and we are booked almost solid through probably mid-November through May 1st. And then obviously when the shoulder seasons start, that decreases. But right up until the summer and the spring before the storm hit in September, we had a waiting list of people in February, March, and April, just in case somebody canceled.
All right, Dave, at Mariners Boathouse, what are the what's the capacity there? How many units do you have, and what are your challenges that you're facing?
Well, I think initially our challenge was with this whole thing was how soon somebody could get on the island to get at our condos, all of us, obviously. So the challenge has been timing, obviously. As I said, we only have 22 units, but we're a timeshare. So we have 1,122 unit weeks owned by approximately 700 owners. So a lot of moving parts there, keeping 700 different owners satisfied that things are going on. The biggest challenge we had was when the mitigation was going full steam and our mitigator, Southern Cat, had a giant diesel generator. What we did was we bought dehumidifier units for each of the 22 units, and they wired everything up out of their generator to keep our units dry, which helped a lot. And of course, they were monitoring that. Our electrical, fortunately for Mariners Boathouse, is fed from the top down. So while we were cleared to power up the second and third floor months ago, we're fighting for months with Florida Power to get a meter head installed, because all of a sudden they said there was a shortage of them. And then Southern Cat's electrician didn't file the right paperwork, and this just went round and round and round and round. And we finally just got power to the second and third floors maybe a month ago.
Wow.
Other than that, like as I said, our general contractor is RL James out of Fort Myers. They've worked for us on 3 separate projects before. We know what their capabilities are. They have a lot of in-house trades. Their people are trained to multitask. So they could be doing pouring concrete one day and installing drywall the next. They multitask at there. And then their sub trades are people that constantly work for them. So they don't really think that's going to be an issue getting people on site working when the time comes. We've just pulled our first 2 permits, one for the pool area. And and of course, the biggest challenge, like everybody here, is dealing with the insurance companies, because we carry what we
We're gonna get-
consider.
We're going to
Oh,
get to
sorry.
that, Dave. We're going to get to
Okay.
that
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah.
So, Bob, how many units does Carlos Point have, and what's your biggest challenge over there?
We have 104 units, and much like Dave Nussbaum, we have peak that probably starts in early November and goes all the way through May, but we've had a lot more summer visits as well, right through July. So I'd say when we're at our peak, we probably have 210 people or more in that building because they virtually fill up. And our biggest challenges, I'm going to give you a short-term and long-term here. I think short-term for us right now is a lot of unknowns about building permit approvals. Now, we've submitted some, we're working through it. I have a lot of respect for those poor people down in that Fort Myers Beach building group because they're just overwhelmed and there are not enough of them. And my heart goes out to them, but we need help. Also, money to pay for all these required restorals and repairs is a key element. Long term, though, I think the island is going to hit a wall. Wait till we all have to do our new premiums on wind insurance. It is going to be ugly. And I'm getting nothing but ugly reports about the wind insurance increases in prices. So it could be a real showstopper for a lot of people when we're going to have to take special assessments to pay for these things. And they're going to be really rich. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. All right, let's get Councilman Jim Adderholt's question in here, starting with you, Mike, at the top. What is some advice that you could give for other condo board members who are in similar situations? Let's start with Mike Law from Batiki West.
Actually, I think the best thing to do, I mean, for us was, obviously reach out to your owners and keep them aware of what's going on. There was a lot of questions when this happened, and we were starting to get it. When we put out information and share that with them, things seemed to go a lot smoother. The other thing is we were very fortunate to have somebody with the skills to go immediately on site and be able to get a hold of a restoration company and begin the mitigation and the whole process to start. We did not at this point have to use a public adjuster. We're getting along with our insurance so far, and they're actually treating us pretty well. Now, I can't say the same a lot for it is, but I can't say the same for some of our the personal insurance side with some of the owners. They're really struggling trying to get their companies to help them through their loss. But I think communications is the big thing with the owners. The hardest part is trying to understand going through the process of getting permits and inspections. That's the difficult part for us, along with, and I agree with getting the material. We too are waiting for an 800 amp panel to run our elevators, and we're hoping to get that in soon in July. But we ordered that stuff immediately. We finally did get our 1200 amps and got our insurance. The other issue or difficulty we've had is some of the dealing with Florida Power. We've had some difficulty there of understanding that we had a generator running, powering up our place, and it's going to the meters. Then our people were getting charged for generated power, and we're trying to work through that too. So I think just communications would be the big thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody that's in your positions, all these positions here, were just, I mean, one day all you're worrying about is making sure people close their blinds because of the turtles, and the next thing you know, the whole world's turned upside down, and you got to readjust to all these different things. So, Jim, what advice do you have for other condo associations and condo members?
Well, I would echo that communication is certainly key. I think all of our owners feel like we keep them informed of our difficulties and of our successes. We had some problems early on with temporary power with Florida Power and Light. got that resolved, but we're now looking, I think one of our biggest issues moving forward is the supply chain, as others have mentioned, getting the electrical switch gear and those kinds of things. Permitting has taken longer than any of us expected or would have had reason to expect. I understand that the people at Town Hall must be overwhelmed by the number of applications, but nonetheless, it seems to take an inordinate amount of time to get permits approved. Sometimes we don't fully understand just what we have to submit as part of that application process. I think that's one of the things that has really slowed us down at times. The inspections seem to come about fairly quickly. That doesn't seem to be an issue. Elevators, our first elevator, I believe, is to be on site, to be installed in August. But we're looking at a lot of things. Things are moving slowly, but we are all moving forward, and it looks like we can see light eventually at the end of this
Jim,
year.
before I go to Dave Nussbaum on this question, what do you think? What advice can you give for the town to improve on the permits?
Communication, I think, again, if they communicate clearly just what needs to be submitted with the application, whether it's engineering drawings, and if so, specifically what we ran into the same issue with Florida Power and Light. Florida Power and Light, regarding our temporary power, wanted things, and our engineer was providing to the best of his understanding what Florida Power and Light needed. But time and time again, we were told, well, no, that's not exactly what we need. We need something else. So I think if the communication were clearer, it would speed things up for us, and they wouldn't have to review the application multiple times.
Okay, well, that's great information. So, Dave Nussbaum, what advice can you give other condo associations, and tell us about your permitting experiences while we're on the subject?
Echoing the communication is first and foremost, but the other thing that we have found out, and the best advice I can give to any of the other board members listening, is make sure you have someone that can convert your damages to Xactimate. The insurance companies, at least the ones we're dealing with, both flood and wind, deal strictly in Xactimate, which is a computer program that literally sets up a price for the damages. And if you need a new roof, or if you need drywall, or if you need whatever, that's the program that is the common knowledge denominator for all of the insurance companies. And if you don't have someone that can convert that for you, it will delay your insurance an ungodly amount of time.
What about permitting? How's that going for you?
Permitting has been okay. I sent kind of talked to a couple of the councilmen and just said, most of the condominiums here operate under their own set of bylaws. We're a little different than private property, and we all have rules in place that require licensed plumbers, electricians, HVAC people. And so I said there should be a way that you can streamline some of the condominiums on their permitting, because we can't allow anyone coming in that just has their name written on the side of a truck.
Gotcha. Dave Wallace, any advice that you can give for other condo association folks, and then tell us about your permitting experiences?
Well, as everyone said, yeah, communication is front and foremost for sure. Our permitting, as I said before, is just beginning. But and our contractor, as I said, they're out of Fort Myers, and they've dealt with the town of Fort Myers Beach on many occasions. So their main guy that we're always in contact with, he's says, well, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. One thing we were told some time ago that seemed to be a great relief to all of us was that they could pull an initial permit from the town, and as we got prices from subtrades and whatnot in, we could add those onto that permit as we went. He checked that with the town a few weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago, and that was confirmed. Yes, you could do that. We just found out last week that someone else at town hall has said, no, you can't do that. They want one permit that shows everything that you're about to do to for your restoration. And that's why I said we've pulled a permit just for our pool area and spa, and then a building permit. And I think I don't know. I know, and we were also told that the town was actually farming out permitting to Lee County, and it was delaying stuff by weeks and weeks and weeks. Now we hear, no, Fort Myers Beach is doing it all themselves, which we certainly appreciate. But as I said, waiting for all our sub-trades to submit pricing may delay the stuff. So, but again, it falls back to communication with Fort Myers Beach. Is it this or is it that?
Yeah, I think the mayor told us on Monday's show that there is still some contract work going out. I'm not sure which part of that is still going out. I don't know if it was Lee County or somewhere else, but he also made it sound like they are trying to pull that all back in. It's just,
Yeah,
you got to find the right people that understand everything that's going on to bring them on. And of course, it's got to be a budgetary thing too, because the town is going through all that financial stuff as well. So, from what you say, I wonder, or what everybody says before we go to Bob, I wonder if it makes sense that that there's like a Zoom call that all the presidents of the condos associations have with somebody from permitting, where you could all kind of like ask questions for 2 hours and try and figure out what a faster path is to get all those things signed. Would that help anybody or not?
well, for us
Yeah.
at Mariner's Boathouse, I think it's we've put our faith into R.L. James, and they keep us informed, and they're very responsive to everything. It's so the information we get from them versus information that somebody on my board tries to glean out of the town. We're being advised by professionals about what's going on, so we can pass that info on to our ownership and that. I know, well, Dave Nussbaum and I have met face to face, but he's more familiar with my vice president, Bob Laurier, who sent me an email today saying the town, since everybody's got going, has issued 9,000 and some odd building permits to date versus 2,000 for all of 2022. Yeah. So,
right.
So we understand the backlog of the process, but I think the town's doing a pretty good job. And as I said, we have all our faith for our contractor to get the required permits and
Gotcha.
Move ahead.
Okay. So Bob, what are your thoughts on some advice that you could give some of the other condo members on the island, and share some thoughts about permitting?
Yes. Thanks, Ed. And I just want to circle back on what Dave said for just a second. It would be great if our general contractor could have that meeting with the town building people. I wouldn't feel qualified to ask the right questions, but they could. And it opens up a much better communications path with it. So let's go back to, we've hit communicate. There are no roadmaps on this. One of the things that's made me right off the bat is, what do I do first? We didn't even know what a public adjuster was when we started.
Right.
This. We hired one. Thank God we got a good one. And that led to the general contractor. These are our roadmap people. We count on them to help us understand what comes next in the whole process. So if you don't have these kinds of guides in the process, you're sort of on your own. And I don't think we could have gotten anywhere near where we are now without them in our area. Now, they aren't cheap, but they, frankly, for us, they're paying their way. Now, on the permitting, one of the things we just did is we submitted what's called, the general contractor just submitted what we call a white box permit. And that, we have an awful lot of units. All but 4 units of our 104 have at least some damage to the drywall. So all the drywall has to be put back, but you got to make sure, and by the way, we still don't have water and sewer. So you got to make sure the water pipes aren't leaking before you put the drywall back. You don't have any electrical problems and so on. He had to pay $930 for each unit that needs electrical or plumbing work. So we're in the neighborhood of $40,000 in permit.
Wait, for a permit? For a permit? So it's $930 per unit?
That's right. For every unit that doesn't just
Good grief.
you go in and say, slap drywall up, everything's fine. We missed 10 square feet of drywall. And these are the ones that need to have the toilets removed and put aside because the drywall behind it's all messed up, and the hot water heaters and this and that. And they go through and they cap off all of the plumbing so that when the water comes out, we don't have water spurting all over the place. That was $930, plus you got to pay the subcontractors to do the work. Now, we're telling our owners, when it's time for you to do the rest of it, like in the first and second floor, you might have to replace all of your lower cabinets because they got wiped out, and toilets and this and that. They have to pay another $930 for each of their continuation on that permit. That's our understanding. I think the town, now I understand the town needs money. We all need money too. I think they need to find a lower rate, because I know they have to do inspections and so on for those follow-on activities to complete your remodeling. I think they should be giving us a break on that second permit. Hit us with the 30, but not another 930. It's not right.
So Bob, let's start with you on this question. I mean, the dollar amounts of the assessments that people have to pay they boggle my mind. What do you think at the end of all this, your people will wind up paying in assessments?
We are doing our level best to try to avoid assessments. The numbers could be astronomical, depending on how we don't have all the numbers, all the costs. We're getting better at understanding what our settlements are going to be from the insurance companies. But the cost side is an unknown now. We're going through that process. And so I wouldn't even venture a guess. I'm an owner, got totally wiped out on the first floor. I don't need initial assessments. And we're going to get a big one, I think, when it's time for us to renew our wind insurance policies this year.
Got it. Mike, any idea what you might have to charge for assessments at Batiki West?
Yeah, we've already started that process at Batiki West, and we actually, our insurance came due in February of this year, so we've seen a huge increase at that point. So we went through the process with our association and approved an assessment. We currently have set it up into payment periods for this year, with one next year in 2024 being open. Because as Bob said, we really don't know the final cost. We know where we're at with our insurance companies. We're getting a pretty good handle of that. But then you have things thrown at you that you totally didn't expect, like this exhaust, bathroom exhaust, and wherever that's going to go, then that's going to change the whole thing. So we're looking at right now over this 2023, probably close to 15,000, and then we're not sure in 2024. We'll see where we're at. Hopefully, have a better idea at that point where we're at.
Okay. But Mike, for dummies like me who don't know the answer to this question, a total of 15,000 or 15,000 per person?
Okay, it would be per unit, 15,000 per unit, but that would be divided up amongst 3 different payments for them.
Okay, gotcha.
Where we're at right now, and that part of that is to cover the cost of the additional the insurance increase that we had. Our wind insurance and flood wasn't as bad as, but the wind was
right.
It is,
but Even when you divide it up into 3 payments, it still comes out to $15,000, right?
Well, yeah, it just comes up
Yeah.
15 for this year, but
Yeah.
it's most likely going to be more in 2024.
Wow. Jim, anything you can share about what you're thinking over there, Leonardo Arms?
All three buildings again operate separately with their boards, and all three boards have levied special assessments already for 2023. I don't feel comfortable sharing that dollar amount on the air. All the owners know what those amounts are at this point. And I think all three boards, like others, are looking to try to contain cost as much as we can. We, at this point, don't anticipate any additional assessments, special assessments for 2023. But like others have said, we don't know what insurance is going to pay specifically toward our new roof, for example, or toward further waterproofing of our building. So there may be some additional costs down the road.
Gotcha. Dave, can you share some numbers with us if you'd like?
Well, excuse me, we had a $500,000 deductible that was on our wind carrier policy. So the math is real easy. That's $5,000 per owner just to cover the deductible. We had another $15,000 that we put on top of that. So we initially started out with a $20,000 number, and the owners voted to continue to fund the reconstruction depending on proceeds coming back from the insurance companies, which have been extremely slow and hard fought. So we have had another assessment on top of that original 20, and we have another one that the board has voted on, but we haven't implemented it yet because we're waiting to see when the proceeds come back. So it's a waiting game with the insurance companies. They're playing a delay game, trying to get a lower payment back to you. And if you wait for them to pay it, obviously slows your progress down. And our voters voted not to do that.
And here is, all these folks that live in the condos, they're either retired or they're going back and forth. It's just like, this really is wasted money. I mean, I know it's got to be done, but it's just like, you think you think most people are just digging into their retirement, or, I mean, it just boggles my mind, the amount of money that all these people have to dish out now.
That's correct. And again, we're not done yet. Everybody else that's on this call and all the other condo boards and condominiums that are out there, we haven't even begun to get a total bill on this. So we don't know. And every time something opens up, a code, you have to bring your buildings. We were built in 72 and 74. And if there's a code, something that we have to bring up to code, that suddenly becomes another layer of the onion that you didn't even plan for.
Dave, over at Mariners Boathouse, what can you share with us?
Well, we just renewed our insurance policy for flood and for wind a month or maybe 6 weeks ago. We were carrying a policy with only a 1% deductible, which was for the last 3 years, which was really manageable. The best deal we could get 6 weeks ago when I renewed was an increase of 124% on wind and no increase on flood, which I don't know why, but the other best deal we could get was a 10% deductible, left us with that only 124% increase. We were kind of fortunate in that because our operational, our budgets were put in place last October, just after the hurricane. So of course, we sent out our billing for maintenance fees and reserve fees. We're very fortunate in that we've got about a 90% return rate on our, even with what we're going through, we've had 90% of our owners pay up. And because our operating expenses aren't anywhere,
Sure.
where they should be,
Right.
that extra funding has covered off the insurance, which has been great for us. We also have I think we really take good care of our reserve accounts, and right now as I said, the insurance won't pay for the repairs to our pool and spa and surrounding deck areas and that, but our reserves will cover that. So we're kind of in a good position right now, as of the beginning of this week, is that we don't foresee any special assessments.
That's good. That's good news.
Our flood carrier has paid us very well and in short order, 2 different payments, and they're covering ground floor, first floor. Wind on the second and third floor, yeah, they've paid us some. I think we're still maybe going to duke it out with them a little bit, but as I said, beginning of the meeting, we really only sustained drywall damage. We had the mitigator cut out the bottom 3 feet or 2 feet of drywall around the entire perimeter of each of our second and third floor units, which is only 16 units, and had to pull some cabinetry out to get behind them. But like, that's the worst of it, some new drywall and reinstalling the cabinetry and that. So, and of course, with everything else too, maybe you're about to bring this up, Ed, is the old FEMA 50% stuff, which is a challenge for us because we're only a 3-story building. So we, at Lee County's advice, we got an independent appraiser and had our building reappraised. And so it gave us a dollar amount. And I mean, they're not guaranteeing it, but our engineer and our contractor have both said that with our restoring our building, we're not going to hit that amount.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Well,
it's great for us.
I was trying to go through a whole show without using the word FEMA.
Sorry.
But now that you brought it up, I mean, if you were above the 50% rule, all the work that you've done would be useless, right? Because you would have to knock the building down.
That's true. And, I know a lot of people look at it in different regards, but I mean, like, as we progress through this, and our contractor said he doesn't think we'll hit that mark, which is great news. But if we did invest that money, being paid mostly by insurance money, and then push came to shove and we're going to go over that 50%, then you just stop,
Wow.
and the building's for sale. So,
okay. Right.
And then,
right.
and then you're splitting up the proceeds of that. So but I don't know. I'm a construction engineer by trade. So maybe I look at things in a brighter light, from everything from what we have to do, the time frames we have, as far as I'm concerned, even with permitting and everything, I believe we're going to be open for business January 1st.
Okay.
And I just keep believing that. So,
I mean, and I'm guessing your gut feeling is that you're going to be below the 50% rule because the alternative is really crap. I mean, that's crap for everybody.
Yeah, but as I said, we've got a handful of owners that really wish we just put the property up for sale right now and
I see.
let the new owners do whatever they want to do to the property.
Well, the one thing, the one tiny piece of good news right now on the island is that property values are not going down. I mean, it just seems like, well, obviously you can't make more beach and everybody wants to be on the beach, and you probably would get a nice little chunk of change for that if that had to be the case, but hopefully not. Hopefully you guys could open up and it's below the 50%. So we got a few minutes left. Let's go around the horn one final time. Bob, when are you going to open?
Well, we're looking at all the things we're being told at this point. I would say probably occupancy sometime in the April 2024 timeframe, realistically.
2024. So that's 15 months after the storm. Wow. Yep. Final thoughts, Bob?
Well, and that's millions of dollars later.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
I'd hate to add up how many millions in these 5 squares here that's being spent on all these projects. I probably wouldn't understand it.
You guys are doing a wonderful job. Between the email I get each week about Beach Talk Radio and all the people that subscribe in our building, we are very dependent on you. Love your walk-arounds, love the videos. We can send them to other people and share where we are. And I just can't thank you enough for the job you're doing.
Oh, thanks a lot, Bob. I appreciate that.
I think there's one other thing that ought to be done. I'm going to throw this out there. I think the people who've been working this issue back at headquarters, Fort Myers Beach, should I'm not kidding about this, should put up a plaque and have the names of all the people who were key in getting this beach back restored, should have their name on there for perpetuity. Got to tell you, they are in pain too, just like the rest of us.
Excellent points, Bob. Thank you. Mike, when will you guys open, and any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, we were hoping to open maybe sometime December, but with this new little glitch, we were not sure. It could be, we could miss the season, and it could be well into somewhere spring of 2024. My final thoughts is, first of all, thank you, Beach Talk. I tell you what, a lot of the communications for us and the owners actually came from you guys being on site and watching some of the things you were presenting. I would say that when this gets closer to the end, the one thing that maybe as condo owners ought to do is I know we're putting together a history of what took place. So we have an emergency guide if this ever should happen again, because this is all new for a lot of people. I hope the city of Fort Myers does the same thing. I hope they go back and look, see what was good and what was bad, and improve upon it, so you're ready when this happens again. So that's probably my biggest advice.
Thanks, Mike. Jim, any final thoughts? And when are you guys going to open?
Yeah, we've been told we'll be back in sometime in January of 2024. We're hoping even for a little sooner, but that's what we've been told. I'd like to thank you for everything that Beach Talk Radio does. I would like to thank all of my fellow board members and board members for the other 2 buildings. Claremont, who's been great to work with, and the attorney that we're working with. It's been slow, and it's our first time, and hopefully it's the last time any of us have to go through with this. But as others have suggested, I think we need to document what we've had to go through and what has been done, so we have a blueprint going forward.
Got it. Thank you so much, Jim. Dave Nussbaum, when are you going to be open?
We are hopeful that we will be able to have both buildings up and running in January of 24. A lot of it is dependent on the elevator install. The ground floors obviously are going well. I echo all of the fellow participants today on what they said. Primarily, Beach Talk Radio has been a lifeline to everyone on the island. I think the town council has done a yeoman's job in trying to get everything in line. They're not miracle workers. They've obviously got municipal rules to live by, as condo presidents do. But I think they've been extraordinary in getting everything along. And the people on the island, everyone here deserves a pat on the back, because I'm a second generation owner, and this is my home. It's our home, and everybody deserves a pat on the back, and we will be back.
Thank you, Dave. And we will see you in Wisconsin really soon on July 15th. That'll be fun.
Yes, sir.
Dave Wallace, you get the final word. I think you mentioned you might be open by January. So any final thoughts?
Yeah, only that, I'll back up a little bit on that. You know, we talked about this the other day at our annual meetings, that worst case scenario, since we're rebuilding the entire first floor and ground floor from the studs out type of thing, the first floor may be compromised for January, but second and third floor should be ready to go. And then our flex week owners start rolling in the end of April, so they should be fine. Like everyone else, Ed, though, honestly, I had never even heard of Beach Talk Radio until this disaster struck. And I don't know, I think on Facebook, I saw your first Saturday morning walk around up at the north end of Times Square. And all of a sudden, you guys are doing a fabulous job. You're rattling a lot of chains, keeping people informed. And I just want to thank you for that too. And good luck to all my counterparts that are on the screen today. We got a lot of work to do.
Well, thank you all for coming on, and thank you all for the nice words. I appreciate that. I'll pass them along to Kim, and we'll keep doing these shows. So thanks again, and good luck with everything. Maybe we can check in 6 months with all of you again and see how things are coming along.
Great.
Sounds good.
Right.
All right, you all have a happy and safe 4th of July also. And just so you folks know, if you want more condo associations to be part of something like this, there are Chief Worth told me today there are 162 condo buildings on Fort Myers Beach. So if you know somebody, we're getting to know quite a few, but we don't know them all. So if you know somebody that we can get on, that maybe, we're a place where you go, a place where you stay, or a place where you live, and we can get an update, we're happy to do these shows every week if we can, get maybe 3 or 4 on and get an update, and then do what we do with the walkarounds. We like Santini Plaza, we did it 4 months ago and then 2 weeks ago, because you can see the progress and everybody wants to know about the progress. So if you can pass that along to me by email or by text, we'll be happy to follow up and see if we can get some more of the folks on. It'd be great to be able to cover all the condos at least once, so everybody has an idea of how those things are going. So thank you all for tuning in. We had a big audience tonight. There's obviously a lot of interest in the condo buildings on Fort Myers Beach. And Saturday's show, we will have Bill Wachulis and Bob Boynton on from Pink Shell. They're going to be talking about their planned development, an 8-story building across from the resort, which includes 4 stories of a parking garage. So that's going to be Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. If you're coming to the show, they're bringing poster boards of the presentation, and then we're also going to have pictures of what's going on for the Facebook crowd that can't come to the live event and see the poster boards there. So that's going to be Saturday at 11. Of course, we're having a little musical celebration at La Ola's on Tuesday we started at 12 o'clock. We got a lineup of music on the stage at La Ola in Times Square, including D-Rocks and Stephen Clark and High Tide. So we hope you can come out and bring a case of water that we're going to donate all to FMB Strong. So that's the 4th of July on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we're going to go back to the beach at 7 o'clock and do a beach cleanup from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So a lot of stuff going on, and we appreciate all you guys out there tuning in. And we'll be back Saturday at 11 o'clock live from Wahoo Willie's. Bye-bye.